You're listening to the Paul Higgins podcast for SaaS consulting partners ready to scale beyond six figures without more work or a bigger team. Let's dive in. If your Salesforce clients are still relying on reps to manually input data into their CRM, in particular their Salesforce records, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. In this episode, I talked to Trevor Lee, co-founder and CEO of Myko. It's myko.ai. It's a voice-first AI tool that's changing how sales teams interact with Salesforce. You'll discover three key things: why outside reps never fill in Salesforce, and more importantly, how they will in the future. How voice input and AI workflows are killing the 53-click admin nightmare, and that's how I found Trevor, which I talk about in the podcast. And the third is the overlooked benefit that's slashing new rep ramp time by half. So he really talks about not an esoteric benefit of this software, but a really tangible ROI that you can talk about. So if you're a Salesforce partner helping clients unlock AI or reduce CRM admin pain, this one is gold. You can go on and watch Trevor and I on YouTube. I was at my holiday house this week, so the video quality isn't quite as good from my end, but it certainly is from Trevor's. And you can watch us on the Paul Higgins Mentoring YouTube channel. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Trevor Lee from myko.ai. Great to have you here, Trevor.
Great to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, same here. I think you've got a fantastic solution to a problem that I used to encounter myself when I worked on the Salesforce platform, and I know a lot of partners listening today will get a lot of benefit from. But why don't we kick off with who is your ideal client and what problems you love to solve for them?
We help customers get data into Salesforce. So big pain point is reps don't fill out the CRM, especially reps with outside sales teams. Our ideal client is a company with a distributed Salesforce that's out in the field in person all day, every day. Those sellers typically don't have time to go back to their computer or even on their phone, the Salesforce mobile app, record all of those conversations, activities, opportunities, and items when they're in the field. So we help people do that using voice.
Yeah, great. And hallelujah is the short version. You know, I know that typically salespeople love to talk. I was one, probably still talk too much. That's why I'm a podcaster. But yeah, your day gets away, right? And then you have best intentions when you get home, it doesn't happen. And then, you know, your boss or your boss's boss wants something and it's not in there. We've all had that sort of, that pain. So just give me sort of practical example of how to work for a rep if given that scenario that I just painted.
The interesting thing is the value of a CRM isn't new. Getting information in there that can be used both during the sales process and in future sales processes is really important. The challenge is that it's so painful to get that data in right now that the trade-off isn't worth it for the rep to sit down and spend the time to get that data in. So real tactical example is if you are prospecting and you walk into a new account, you have a great conversation with them, and they tell you a really interesting tidbit that their boss is returning from vacation in 3 weeks. Maybe the boss just had a wedding out in another country, and they have this budget allocation item freeing up when you go back to that same location in that 3 week time span. Now, typically, that challenge would be how do you record all of that information? You need to do a follow-up, you need a new account, you need a contact you need to add, maybe you need the opportunity as well. And maybe you want to send them a one-pager and get that into their hands so that by the time you're at that next conversation, they remember you and you keep it fresh.
Yes.
So we let the rep in real time as they're walking from that in-person activity to their car, record all of that. We plug into Slack, we plug into Teams, or even the Salesforce mobile app. They record it, dictate exactly all of those action items that I just talked about. And Myko, without them having to do anything else, goes and finds all the right fields, places action items and workflows for them to do so that all they do is hit send, turn on the keys of their car, and they're off to that next meeting.
Fantastic. And so I know that for me, for example, it's been a long time since I've been on the road as a rep, but you know, for me, I drive to my holiday house quite a bit. For you that are regular viewers of the YouTube channel, Paul Higgins Mentoring, you'll see that I've got a different background today. I'm not in my studio. I'm in my holiday house, but I use, talking to Apple Notes. And then, it's a pain because then I've got to go into Apple Notes and transfer it into Notion, which is the software that I use. And it's always clunky. And I'm trying to find an AI solution. I haven't found it. I'm assuming people at the moment are leaving voice notes, they're leaving notes in Apple, they're leaving notes somewhere and then trying to move it across. Your solution basically cuts that middleman out. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it's funny because you teed me up for the first slide of our sales deck says your sellers are using Apple Notes, not Salesforce. Because in reality, most sellers are doing exactly that. They're dictating their notes into their phone, and then sometimes they do something with it, sometimes they don't. But that's where all the information is getting lost and stored right now. That's interesting because that means they're already comfortable with this kind of voice interaction interface. It's really just like what's actually happening on the back end to it.
Well, how do you in the background make sure that it goes into the right field so there's no rework by the salesperson?
We do all of that during implementation. During implementation, we look at all the fields with the help of AI to map out what are the custom objects, what are the things your sellers care about, what are they using right now, and build that mapping so that during the onboarding process, there's some testing and fine tuning and making sure we're pointing at the right places. And then from there, we usually get very high accuracy once we get it in the field in people's hands. Because at the end of the day, like I say, most sellers, there aren't that many fields they care about. There just aren't that many things that they really need to do or put in unless you have, one of those ops teams that has a long, long, long laundry list of things. But that's the exception, not the rule. For us, it's really making sure that we understand the customer's specific industry, niche, or the nuances to their business so that we know when they say a certain type of metric or thing, we know what they're really referring to in the end system.
Yeah, great. And just a reminder, we're listening to Trevor Lee, episode 614. And in this, at the end, I know seeing is believing. So what we're going to do is have a URL that you can go to. That'll be in the show notes as well, that you can go and actually see this firsthand, right? Because I know seeing is believing, but this seems like such an obvious thing, right? But what got you to create it? It's like a lot of people have brilliant ideas, and when they think, yeah, I thought of that, but I never actually did it, right? What got you to actually bring this to market?
In summer 2023, we saw Dolly and the other image models come out. And instantly, my co-founder and I knew that language would be the way that people work, the
Yes.
way that work got done. And so very quickly, we started asking as many people as possible, what teams have really big issues with data? Getting data into systems, getting data out of systems. And everyone was like sales. Everyone we talked to, the first one, they were like sales. You need to look at sales. So we started talking to dozens of sales leaders, learning more and more about these problems. And ultimately, through lots of discovery and talking to people in the ecosystem, realized it's not just being able to do analytics and like get the data out of the system, because the data is not in the system in the first place most times. Like it's actually like just getting the data in is almost more important in a lot of cases. And that
Yes.
that really got us down this vision of like, okay, if you could interact with all of your data sources, not just Salesforce, what we're currently plugged into, using voice to handle all of that admin work, that would be this kind of magical utopian future that we ultimately hope we can get to.
Yeah. And then look, if you're as old as I am, the good thing is that when you want something early in life, it sometimes ends up becoming true. And this is a classic example. I worked for Coca-Cola for 18 years, and I remember as a rep, even back then, thinking of this. It's like, and like examples, and we'll get to it in a moment around video, but it's like a customer would say something and then deny that they ever said it. I'm like, why can't I just record them and then that goes into the note, and then I don't ever have to have 25 different conversations, because as a senior leader, that's what I spent most of my time trying to. The rep said one thing, the customer says the other. You've got to sort of be the arbiter. I'm assuming this now, sort of helps that. So it's brilliant that it's finally got here, and I totally agree with you with voice. I'm trying to be voice first. I think a keyboard, which, we've all sort of got at the moment. I think, if you're in the keyboard manufacturing, you better switch gears, because I think it'll either be glasses or through glasses with voice in some format that it all changes. Voice to text predominantly at the moment. What about video? Where do you see that in your product roadmap?
I think audio to audio will be the next piece that we get to, and it will take some time. So one of the challenges right now is when we do voice to text, there's some latency to it. So there's
Yes.
a delay because of the processing that our product has to do to make sure that we get all the data in the right places and do all the right actions for you. As that processing time decreases and as the models keep getting better, a real-time voice-to-voice agent will be able to carry out all those same workflows with a iterating and updating interface. So we'll actually show like the fields being filled in on the screen as you're talking to it. I think that's the more interesting when we think about like video. I think about like the UI itself changing based on the voice interaction. And I think that's ultimately where we can get with this.
Yeah, great. And what about Coke? We used to always have to validate where our assets were, our point of sale. We had 7 points that we had to have displays in a store, and you had to validate it, etc. How does can you upload photos into this as well, or is it just voice at the moment?
Yeah, it can process photos as well in the same way. Exactly that. Good example that you just gave there is you might have that as a required field, right? For you, in order to check off this visit being complete, you need to validate that each of these 7 boxes is marked type of thing. What our product does, once we learn all of Coca-Cola's rules, if
Yes.
you're hopefully a future customer, if you're validating all those 7 rules, our product would say, hey, like you only filled in 5 of those. What about, northeast corner and southwest corner type of thing? We try and call out those business processes to help the seller along. So once again, it doesn't become as much from memory, but we can kind of guide them through those processes.
Yeah, great. And look, at the moment, this seems too good to be true. What are some of the hurdles that you come with implementing something like this in a business?
I think one of them is still just like seller adoption in general. Like anytime you tell sellers that there's a new process or new tool or new thing they have to do, there's always some level of adoption curve to that. That's kind of on the user side of how do you get that buy-in? How do you really show them that there are benefits not just to getting the data in, but now we can help you get data out that'll be helpful in your sales processes. And then I think on the tech side, when we think about implementation, a lot of it is probably on the organizational level of understanding the different hoops and approvals and processes we have to get through in order to be able to change and edit and update sales forces. A lot of our customers are larger enterprises that have multiple different teams based there to protect anyone doing anything to Salesforce or changing data or
Yes.
making it more easy for sellers to update. And so a lot of that, once again, is like change management and getting people comfortable with what this can do and the benefits once it's really up and running.
Yeah, and look, I'm stating the obvious here, but if you're a Salesforce partner listening to Trevor today, I think you can help navigate that. If you've already got a client that you already know all the key stakeholders, you know the nuances of that company, and you know that this is a problem preventing them from getting data into their Salesforce so that you can do more AI or you can do more things in the future, right? So you're dependent on these sales reps to get something in. Trevor's dependent on you to help navigate the sales process to get in. I think that's where, it's worth reaching out to Trevor to join that together, because I think it's the classic three-way win. I think this is definitely a three-way win. The client wins, definitely the rep wins, the partner, the SI wins, and then Trevor wins by providing it. And as far as the best way
Well, I was
to
just cutting you off, but it's a good segue into what we see when talking to a lot of partners about this is the data piece is so critical for so many of those downstream, both
yeah.
like analytical, enablement, and additional integrations or options that they want to do, that it becomes that blocker for a lot of different projects down the line. And we see this as unblocking all of those because now you can say, okay, if your Salesforce all of a sudden has data you can trust and is filled with rich data and across different objects and sellers, now we've just unlocked an additional 10 different things that were never possible before.
Yeah, and look, going back to my Coca-Cola days, our biggest thing was data integrity. Like, simple things like one rep would call it a street, someone would call it ST, like all of the minor little things. But if you look now at, we all know the importance of data. Everyone's been talking about it, but I think now it's becoming, forefront because we've now got the AI and the tools to be able to much better leverage it. Yeah, I think it's a critical time, and I think it's a really smart concept by you guys to help at the front end. So as you said, everything upstream from there becomes a lot easier. And some of the SIs of the Salesforce implementers that you worked with at the moment, tell us a little bit about how that has worked. How do you typically work with them?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is understanding kind of the way they fit in with their clients, what type of relationships they have, and then starting to socialize both what we can do and then what some of those pain points that their clients are working on dependent on the industry, whether it's financial services, whether it's life sciences, whether it's, manufacturing, really getting to know and partner with the SIs to figure out kind of where there is this middle ground and this match of ideal customer profiles and people that are looking for this Where we've had a lot of success is when we start having those conversations, we get pretty quickly oh, I had a client ask for the ability to talk into my Salesforce 3 weeks ago. Like, I can't believe I found something like that. We've started, and it kind of helps that Salesforce themselves, Agentforce has been blasting all of these marketing messages of what is theoretically possible. So we've started to get down the road of, clients are asking for some of these types of things more and more. And so we become a partner where we can get in there with our technology, and the SIs are helpful from both onboarding, implementation, then even a training standpoint once we actually get in the door.
Yeah, fantastic. And the pricing model, like you're a per user, you're a per account, like how does the pricing work for the end client?
It's been on a per user basis. Kind of our base fee starting is about $50 per user per month. And then depending on size, scope, there are obviously some additional add-ons that'll get there. But we've been trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that often at the moment your Salesforce, I'm sure the success of this will then go into other platforms. And some other platforms, you know, people say, well, I'm paying $100 for the whole platform a month or $99 a user, whatever, and you want me to, pay 50 for this? I'm sure that's an objection you've heard before. How do you answer that objection?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the value they're getting, and especially the ability for us to add on a lot of these other integrations or connections to other tools. So it's not just, okay, we now enable you to use Salesforce, but we can also make it easier to plug into things like your email, into your LinkedIn, into the other data platforms that your sellers are using, whether it's a SalesLoft, Gong, Clary, and thinking through what does that roadmap look like and how we can really enable your sellers to now start interacting with all these different systems in one shot.
Yeah, and look, the way that I found you was through a fantastic video that you posted on your LinkedIn, which was 53 clicks. So tell me just a little bit about, or tell instead of me, tell you who's watching or listening to Trevor.
We've been putting together some short videos that just show the side by side using the Salesforce mobile app experience and all the different screens and clicks and buttons you have to go through to do something simple like adding a contact and logging in activity, which came out to 53 clicks in this example, versus opening up Myko from within the Salesforce mobile app, talking into it for 15 seconds, hitting send, and then having everything update for you.
Yeah, great. And I know that, if I'm sitting in corporate, one of the objections that a Salesforce partner may get is, well, these guys are a small business. How do I know that they're going to be around? I don't want to go through all the adoption, integration, and then all of a sudden these guys drop off the face of the earth. How would you recommend an SI handle that objection?
One of the fortunate things is we were backed by Khosla Ventures. And so Vinod Khosla was the partner on the deal, who's a well-known Silicon Valley investor. And that deal and kind of some of our early enterprise traction, I think it's fair to say we're going to be here for the long haul. So I think a lot of it is giving internal proof points. Customer referrals is something as well, where as we start getting down this process, opening up our referral network of people that are on Myko and really just making the customers as comfortable as possible, that the people that are working with us now have seen it's not vaporware, we're getting active usage, and that we're going to be here for the long haul.
Yeah, and I'm based in Australia. You're going to hear my accent for if you're new to the podcast. If you've been here for a while, you know that. But I basically virtually live in North America. But I've also got clients all over the world and people that listen all over the world. For you at the moment, is there any limitations on language in Myco at the moment?
Not at the moment. We have customers right now based in both North America and Europe. So those have been the kind of two main geographies that we focused.
Right. But if someone's saying Latin America listening to this and they speak Spanish or Portuguese, is that able to be done at the moment in Salesforce through
It would
Myco?
be, and it would be more valuable for the SIs who can help us with that and break the language barrier gap down from our team, which is not the limitation of the AI itself.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. For you, what are some of you spoke about upstream, right? Some of the benefits. Can you point to a specific use case where the benefit of getting the data right has then led to a result that you're going to tell us about post?
So the biggest thing we've seen is the new sales rep ramp time as being the benefit of, okay, I have a seller, Richard, who's in a territory for 3 years. He leaves the company and a new territory rep takes over. If they have no data versus they now have 3 years of rich, articulate, all the conversations detailed with all of the accounts in there, that new rep is going to be able to hit the ground running with a significantly higher win rates, significantly faster sales cycles for that ramp period, and get into that territory and perform significantly better. So from a like metric standpoint, that's been the largest one that we're able to easily quantify
Yes.
instead of just like the, oh, value add, time saved. I spend instead of 3 hours a week on Salesforce, I spend like 5 minutes per week. That's something, but especially when we're selling to leaders of organizations and thinking about from a budgetary standpoint, that rep ramp time and then ultimately the ability to kind of increase win rates by pushing all of that data to the reps
Yes.
is really where that value accumulates.
Brilliant. And briefly spoke about it before, some of the signals that you are looking for in a conversation with the end client, what they're saying. What are some of the key ones that you'd want a Salesforce partner, an SI, to be looking out for?
The biggest one, and we've kind of talked about this, but of companies that have an or want to have an AI strategy, they've started to think through all of these heavy analytics ways, like next best action they want to give to their reps, and all of these ways that they can enable their teams, but they're blocked because they don't have the data and they don't have the data infrastructure in place to do that. We see that as a very strong signal when we're early in these conversations of they already know all of the benefits to their business and organization if they can get this first piece under wrap, and
Yes.
we can be the solution to get that there in a way that they haven't previously been able to.
Fantastic. What we'll do is we'll come back and talk about a way that you can see this firsthand. But what we're going to do is just thank our sponsors and then we'll come back to the rapid fire. If you're relying on social media or AI to stay ahead in SaaS consulting, you're missing 90% of the conversation. AI doesn't have access to this information. No algorithm can replace real-world insights from top SaaS partners who've built multi-million-dollar consultancies. Every week, I send a short, high-impact newsletter straight into your inbox. No fluff, no AI-generated noise, just real strategies that work. You'll find exclusive interviews with top SaaS partners and industry experts, behind-the-scenes insights on what's actually working right now, and solo episodes and deep dives you won't find anywhere else on the planet. Recent topics include how top partners build seven-figure businesses without platform dependence, from Salesforce partner to integration powerhouse, and the 5 productivity shifts that doubled my output without adding more hours. This is the only place in the world where you'll get these insights. No recycled content, no AI summaries, just battle-tested strategies that help you land bigger deals and build a business that doesn't depend on you. Want it? Please subscribe now at paulhigginsmentoring.com/newsletter. That's paulhigginsmentoring.com/newsletter. Don't let AI or social media decide what you learn. Get the best SaaS consulting insights straight into your inbox. So, Trevor, ready for the rapid fire?
Ready to rock.
All right, great. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions, rapid reply. So the first one is, other than Myko, Myko.ai, what other AI tools have you seen or used at the moment that have really impressed you?
It's a bit of a cop-out, but deep research. I use deep research from OpenAI every single day.
Fantastic. Second is, what do you think is the most underrated channel to get leads or new clients into your business?
We've been doing LinkedIn outbound. So specifically, I've been doing LinkedIn video outbound, so personalized video messages to executives, and that's been working really well.
Great. And what platform are you using? Native in LinkedIn or are you using a third party?
Native in LinkedIn, but I'm recording everything in Screen Studio.
Okay, fantastic. Next one is, where do you go to learn more about improving Myko?
LinkedIn. That's also LinkedIn. All of the sales advice, enablement advice, everything's from LinkedIn.
Yeah, great. That's how I found you, and I'm glad I did. And I hope you're glad that I did as well. And the last one is, what do you know now about this voice to Salesforce world of Myko that you wish you had known earlier?
Specifically from the content angle, I think it's a different demographic than we thought it was. The longer version is we targeting these outside sales reps first instead of going for a broader inside and outside sales reps.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I think, as you were talking, I was thinking, as we're all moving more and more to voice and more of us are working remotely, I think it doesn't matter where you are really. It's the same thing. It's speed of, the next dial, speed of the next action, etc. If you can use voice, which we're all naturally much better at, white type if we if we need to. So yeah, totally agree. So as I said, there's going to be a link in the show notes. You just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/Myko, MYKO, and that'll take you to a YouTube video so that you can see some use cases of Myko in action, which I think, once you see it, like, I think you get the idea, but once you see it, it'll really make you want to send an email to Trevor. So we'll have also Trevor's LinkedIn, so you can see that. It's Trevor Lee. If you want to go and find out more, there's myko.ai is the website. But thanks for really filling a pain point that I think all salespeople feel, and also helping with the better data upstream, which all managers are going to enjoy. So well done for what you've created, the funding you've got, and thanks for coming and sharing it today.
Thanks. I had a blast. This was really fun.
Cheers. Thanks, Trevor. What a great interview with Trevor. So if you're working with clients that their reps are using Apple Notes, voice memos, whatever, and it's clunky, this is a brilliant way to cut out that middleman and turn the information into being easy to put in by reps, but most importantly, then the information is there for your clients to get better results, which, as I said in the podcast, should mean to more work for you, because the better data means the more work downstream. So go and check out Myko. It's not just a productivity tool, as we said. It's really that missing link between what's in a rep's head to what is in the sales CRM. And you can just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/Myko, MYKO, to see the demo, and that link will be in the show notes. And also reach out to Trevor. Like he said, he's very active on LinkedIn. He's open to all partner opportunities. And as always, you can watch Trevor and I on the YouTube channel, Paul Higgins Mentoring. And I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Podcast. If you've got value today, hit subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and reach out. Let me know you've listened. I'd love to hear from you.